This morning I took a picture of these leaves with the intention of making a tilable texture. We'll be making a tilable texture with these leaves using the layer mask technique that we looked at in an earlier video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything on this image here and Control C to copy it, to put it into my clipboard. And I've already created my 2048 by 2048 document here, and I'm simply going to type Control V to paste this image in here. Now this is a very large image, larger than my texture size, which, as I had mentioned before, is 2048 by 2048. So I'm going to scale this down some so that we can utilize more of the image. And I think that should be good. So we'll go ahead and press enter. So the image currently is overlapping the workspace here. And what I'm going to do then is crop the image using the crop tool, press enter, and this is the area that it's going to crop out. So I'll go ahead and complete that. And now if I move this layer, you'll see that the areas that were overlapping or extending beyond my borders here are no longer there. Just like in previous examples, we're going to offset this image. So I'm going to go to Filter, Other, Offset, and I'm going to set it to 1024 by 1024. Why? Because my image is 2048 by 2048. So this will very conveniently put the seams here in the middle, both horizontally and vertically. In fact, you can see the seams. They should be quite evident. If we zoom in, you'll notice that there is a very visible seam in here, something we do not want in our tilable textures. So we need to get rid of these seams that we put here. These seams originally were on the outer edges of our work area, but because we offset the image, these areas are already seamless. But we've just moved the seam into the middle, basically, of our document here. So I still have the original leaf texture, or sorry, picture in my clipboard. I'm simply going to paste it in here again. I'll scale it down again. To about the same dimensions I did it originally. I'll maybe move it over here a little, so I'm using a different part of my image here. That way we'll get some different leaves in here. And I'll go ahead and crop this as well. You can see what it's going to be cropping out. We'll complete that, and there we go. So currently, this layer, of course, has seams along the outer edges here, and then this one, which we offset, has its seams going down the middle. This means then that we could take the middle areas of this one, and because they don't have a seam there, and if we overlay it on this original image, then we'll eliminate those seams. So let's see how we can do that. What I'm going to do is use my paint select tool here, and I'm going to paint these middle areas, paint select these middle areas. Now what I like about this tool and this method is that it gives me a nice rough outlined selection, which I think makes it a little more difficult to see later on when people are looking at our tilable textures. Okay, so I'm getting my selection down the middle, and that should be good. I might choose to add some more of these leaves in here if I like them. Also, again, to kind of break up that outline a little. But then what I'm going to do once I have my selection is come over here and put a mask on it. So we now have a mask on it. Let's hide the layer behind it so you can see what this layer currently looks like. And here's what it looks like now. So you can see how we've kind of covered up these middle areas to eliminate this seam, this very obvious seam here. Here you can see the seam is very, very obvious, but when I overlay this layer on top of it, that seam disappears. Now we're not entirely done because actually this will not be completely tileable. We'll still have this part as a seam and this part. We've just introduced those as seams in here, and we need to eliminate that now. So how are we going to do that? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and offset this now. We'll offset this layer, but this time we're going to offset it. Well, this is really interesting because you see now that I offset it 1024 by 1024, you can see exactly what it's going to do. This is how it eliminates those seams. You can see how that comes around like that. But you can also see where we've introduced this new seam here, 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 and here. So what we're going to do instead of offsetting it 1024 by 1024 is offset it 512 by 512. And that puts the seams more in the image where we can more easily deal with them. You can see there's a seam here, and you can see that we have a seam here. And if we can eliminate those two places, we'll have a really nice seamless texture. One thing though, we actually need to make sure we offset this as well so that this layer is covering up these seams. So I'm going to go ahead and select that layer, and I'll simply offset it as well. I'm going to go ahead and paste that image in here one more time and scale it down one more time. And I'll press enter. And this time I'm going to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'll still use my quick selection tool here. I've been calling it the paint selection tool. I think that's just because of my working in Maya a lot, but this tool is actually called the quick selection tool. And I'm going to go ahead and just select a group of these leaves that I kind of like, and I think we'll go ahead and maybe select this little cluster here. And that should be a good selection there. And I'm going to type Control-C to copy that. And then I'm going to select my layer here, and I'm going to go Control-V to paste it. Now, it just created a new layer, just so you know, but what we can conveniently do is take this layer and just bring it over one of these seams like that. And we'll do it one more time to eliminate this seam here. So I'll go ahead and show this again. We'll go ahead and select another nice cluster of leaves here. We can actually move this around and find another nice cluster if we like. Kind of like this one here, so maybe we'll go ahead and select that one. I hope it's not too dark, but we'll give it a try. So I'll go ahead and select that leaf, maybe select a couple more around it, or some of this area around it like that. That should be good. I'll go ahead and Control-C to copy that. We'll go ahead and hide that layer, come back over to this top layer here, paste it. And we'll simply move it once again so that it covers that seam. And we should be good now. We should be good. So let's go ahead and just unhide this layer. What we should have now should be a very nice tilable texture of fallen leaves. Let's go ahead and test it out. I'm going to go ahead and now I recommend saving it as a Photoshop file and keeping these layers in case you need to work on it later. Okay. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and just merge all my layers. So I'm going to go to Layer, I'm going to say Flatten Image, and OK. You'll see that now I don't have multiple layers. Again, I don't recommend doing this. If you're going to be using this as a working file, save it as a working file with all of its layers, and then you just simply save out a JPEG that you can, or TIFF or Targa or whatever image format you're using. But for the sake of this demo, this will work fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select everything. All we're going to do is test it, just testing. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to go to this other document that I've created. It's a much larger document. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. Here it is. Here's my tilable leaf texture. We'll go ahead and move it off into the corner. And let's see how well it tiles. We'll go ahead and zoom in a little. And I'm going to duplicate and move it over here. You'll see how they're going to how they join. If we join them, boom, just like that, you'll see that these leaves all meet up nicely. Let's go ahead and try it again. We'll go ahead and take this one, bring it down, bring it back up. Okay, you know what? I'm going to undo that and I'm going to zoom out a little so that I can work with this a little bit more easily. We'll try that again. And I'm seeing a seam. No, I'm not. Okay, excellent. It works. I thought I was seeing a seam for a second. I was thinking, where did I make a mistake? But in fact, I think that it is good. I'm going to go ahead and just fill this out and test it so that we're tiling it 3 and 3. And there it is. There's our tilable texture. There should be no visible seams in here. However, of course, you will see, as you tile it more and more, you will see repeated things in here. You'll see that kind of repetition, which is not easy to avoid when creating these tilable textures, but this is a good tilable texture that would work well in a project in Maya or in a game engine such as Unity. Now, I have made one other example, and I'm going to just show that one to you as well. It is this asphalt texture that I've created, this tilable asphalt texture. It was created from these two images that I also took this morning of some interesting old, cracked, weathered asphalt. I used those same methods I used with the leaves to create this tilable texture, and we can go ahead and test it out as well. And as you can see, it successfully tiles. We really cannot see any seams in it. If we look at it close. No visible seams. However, you will see that things will repeat. For instance, if you look at this piece of asphalt, or let's say look at this one because it has a very distinct shape to it. And if we travel down, 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 here it is again. We go down further, and here it is again. However, we should see no visible seams when you create these tile level textures. I hope that this video has been useful for you, and thank you for watching.